Welcome to this episode of the Catalyst Podcast, 10 Red Flags, When to Move On. Now, we're talking about moving on from a teacher, mentor, or your favorite training organization. We all outgrow things, but these 10 tips can actually be applied to friendships and relationships as well. As usual, I like to start with a story. So I'm taking you back into my third year of medical school, where for the first time I was donning a crisp, white starched coat. It was short in nature because we were still training. It helped us be differentiated from the attendings that had the long white coat. And I remember having the pockets stuffed full of little miniature handbooks, pads of paper, eventually a Palm Pilot. Does anybody remember those? See, this was the era without cell phones. We had just crammed as much paper into our pockets as possible. It became our peripheral brain, these nuggets of information that we learned along our rounds with our attendings. And each month was like a new job. You see, you're attached to a different service each month, so you're trying to impress a new boss and their team members, which often looked like this. The attending is walking in the front, flanked by maybe the fellow, then a resident, then the intern, then the fourth-year medical student, and then me, the third-year student. At this rotation, I was in the catacombs of Henry Ford Hospital in Detroit. It's a labyrinth of hallways. And if you're not careful, you might open a door and end up in a stairwell. The door locks right behind you and you're trapped like a rat. So you learn real quickly to just follow closely on the coattails of the intern in front of you. And at this time, I remember my pockets being stuffed full of the wrinkled, crumpled papers of all these ideas that I'm trying to absorb and learn. You realize that these attendings are not only wise, but super confident in the things they say. And years later, you learn that sometimes these golden pieces of advice don't shake out. Here are 3 examples of some of the things these attendings would tell me. I remember one pediatric inpatient rotation where the physician proudly announced, it is impossible for your body to recognize that small amount of pus behind an eardrum and then have your whole body mount a fever. That's just impossible. Your body doesn't work that way. And then a few months later, I did an infectious disease rotation and learned all about inflammatory cytokines and mediators. And then I remember a dermatology rotation where an attending said there's absolutely no correlation with eating sugar and acne. Only to find out later in functional medicine that there's absolutely a correlation with what you're eating and how your skin feels. And lastly, I remember a surgeon telling me staunchly there is only one correct way to close an anterior abdominal incision. And so here I am taking all these notes, only to realize this is just their dogma. Sometimes it's not really wrong, it's just their opinion. It's how they like to do things, how they prefer to show up. And you see that their culture that surrounds them adapts to this opinion. The OR staff will quickly assemble the instruments according to that surgeon's preference. You see this all in medicine, and there's a reason for that. We are all unique. We have our own blend. And I learned quickly as a third and fourth year, there are no absolutes in medicine. As much as we try to randomize, double-blind, placebo control every study, we are all an N of 1. We are all living life as best as we can, and these physicians are administering their healing medical care as best as they can. So fast forward to functional medicine, right? It's a wild west. There are many functional medicine idols out there. There are training programs. There are teachers. There are so many ways to peel this orange. And that can be overwhelming to practitioners who really prefer to have a playlist, a playbook, a roadmap of, okay, if I do this, then this will happen. And that's just not going to happen in our bodies. So we get used to entertaining dualities, looking for the science underneath, pausing and asking our patient, what is going on in your body? How can we be of service? It's up to you as the listener to create your own blend of learning. And as we are seeing medicine practiced from the outside in, and this is a phrase that I'm repurposing from Dr. Stephen Porges. I just attended the Polyvagal Institute seminar. And it was a conference, a weekend-long conference, where we learned about the power of the vagus nerve, the power of trauma, the power of our interoception to be able to sense our emotions inside. Medicine has it all wrong. We're training from the outside in. We look to external resources to heal us, the pill, the surgeon's knife, the vitamin, the supplement, the perfect food. When in reality, as Dr. Porges said, it's an inside-out healing process. The more we can tap inside into our inner compass, our pilot light, what drives us, what makes us feel good, what brings us into safety, we can access this amazing healing power, this creative muse. And that is alike very much to how I mentor. I mentor from the inside out. And I enjoy, in fact, it's my mission to work with at least 1 million practitioners. I'm up to 90,000, and teaching them that when they tap into that flow and creativity and train up that interoception, it is this inner guidance, this inner compass they can rely on. In my Catalyst Studio, I would like to say they are integrity-driven leaders. They are fearless to spark change in their world. They uphold empathy while recognizing the power of careful boundaries and candid communication. Catalysts are avid learners and eager to spiral upward on their journey, but also astute to hold duality and increase their mind's eye to what is possible. This means that it can be very difficult to make decisions. When you are very adept at looking at the possibilities and expanding your imagination, you can be stuck in the gap from then to now, to the future. You're stuck. Where do I go? What do I do? How do I make the right decision? And as I teach my catalysts, there isn't a right decision. It's not absolute. Just like these attendings that had these absolute phrases and bestowed the wisdom to their naive third-year medical students like me, there aren't absolutes in life. It's taking an inventory of how you feel from the inside out that will be your best guidance to make that best decision at that moment for you. So, without further ado, here are 10 ways, 10 red flags that might be a sign that you need to move on. And of course, these are phrased as feelings that you will feel in your body. So really, these are 10 feelings that might be signaling like a warning light on your dashboard that you might need to pause and skip a beat here. Take a moment, sit with this feeling, and be curious about what it's telling you. So if you're playing along at home, I'd grab a piece of paper and count how many of these 10 red flags that you're feeling right now. And you can use whatever relationship you're thinking of. Maybe it is your favorite training opportunity. You have become part of a community. And boy, in functional medicine, there's a lot. There's mold communities, there's autoimmune communities, there's PANS, PANDAS, all of these neat, cognitive decline. There's so many great niches in functional medicine. And so we get enamored with learning, and eventually we might be at this juxtaposition, this road that forks, and we think, are we ready to leave? Should we look for something else? We might feel pulled in a different direction. And that's what these 10 red flags are for. Okay, so put whatever right now in your mind, whatever relationship, whether teacher, mentor, training opportunity, friend, partner, hold that in your mind as you think of these 10 red flags. So let's get going. Red flag number 1, you feel depleted. You don't have time and energy to invest in this growth any longer or this learning, and you just really want a break. And that's it. You just feel depleted. If that sounds like you, put a check mark down on your paper. Number 2, you feel dread. The session is coming up on your calendar. You see it there, and you're not excited. You're not excited about seeing them, or you're not excited about the next conference. You're feeling dread as you see this session loom closer and closer on your calendar. Number 3, you feel guarded, right? We all need this psychological safety to open up, and you may not feel a sense of trust with this mentor or even members of the group. If you feel guarded, that is an opportunity to be curious why. What is changing and shifting in your body or in this group that makes you feel like you have to hold your cards close? Number 4, you feel fake. In other words, you don't feel like you can be real or authentic. Maybe you're scared of disrespect or dismissal or opposing viewpoints because maybe your facilitator, your mentor, your teacher isn't skilled enough to help the group hold these opposing thoughts. And so you feel like you have to put up a facade, or else you risk being exposed in a way that just doesn't feel healthy or growth minded. Number 5, you feel incomplete. Maybe your needs aren't being met anymore. Maybe this group or this training organization, it just doesn't go deep enough for you. Or maybe you don't get access to the mentor or teacher enough, and you feel that you're just not getting this complete learning experience that you had hoped. Number 6, you feel distracted. Flow goes where attention is. So if you're distracted a lot, there's something that isn't compelling you to pay attention. And this could mean that maybe your goals have shifted and this community, this relationship is no longer a fit for you. So you're constantly distracted. Number 7, you aren't taken seriously. And this is true for a lot of relationships. We need accountability. In order to grow, in order to remain in your zone of genius, in a flow-channeled growth pattern, accountability needs to happen. And perhaps this group isn't taking accountability. You aren't taking accountability. They let you slide. They listen to you, give you lip service that you're going to complete a goal. And then there's really no circling back or support to help you achieve that. And you're left feeling like, wait a second, time has passed and I don't really feel like anybody takes me seriously. Time to pause. Do your patients have this glassy-eyed look as you're trying to explain mast cell activation syndrome? Or perhaps you're running late again because you were trying to describe the physiologic impact that a dysregulated limbic system has. Listen, I get it. My years as a family medicine physician taught me that the sooner I could help my patient understand what's going on in their body, the quicker they felt better. And the same holds true in functional medicine. When I started my practice in 2016, I quickly learned that that's a big ask. Functional medicine is pretty complicated, so I went to work. I started designing infographics specifically for functional medicine, so it makes it easier to explain and help your patients understand what's going on. Fast forward, I have over 70 infographics in 4 themed bundles. And you get lifetime access as the editor. You get each Canva link so you can upload your own logo, you can change the translation, you can change the colors, and you get lifetime access, including any future infographics that are added. This is perfect for patient education handouts, for your waiting room posters, for social media, and even backdrops for lectures you can give to your community. So it's time to color outside the lines and catalyze deeper understanding in your practice. Head to drlarasalyer.com/shop and check out the infographics. Keep coloring outside the lines. Number 8, you feel bored. Bored. When others are in their sessions and there's a mastermind, for example, and they're talking about their struggles and you're watching the group facilitate and support their goals and problem solve, you feel like you're not even learning from that anymore. You're bored. The topics that are discussed really don't apply to you anymore. And you're finding yourself, again, back up to the number 1, dreading the session coming forward. Number 9, you feel ignored. Maybe the teacher or the community doesn't feel approachable to you. You might feel embarrassed to talk openly about what's going on. Maybe you're struggling. And it could be that mentor or teacher isn't asking feedback to improve their skills or their community. There should always be a feedback process for that upward spiral of growth. If there isn't, it's easy to slip into feeling ignored, that your opinion doesn't matter, that you're just another cogwheel in the machine. And finally, number 10, you feel stagnant. Maybe you're noticing that you haven't made any new goals in a while. You haven't looked forward to the future. Maybe it's because you're sensing that you don't feel this net of support in this training organization or in this mentorship. You're not being held accountable. So it kind of feels like, what's the point? You feel stagnant. These are the 10 red flags that it might be time to move on. And if you're even listening long enough to the Catalyst podcast, you know that a lot of these are signs of burnout. Remember, burnout is 3 things: depersonalization, meaning you don't see yourself in this process; low perceived achievement, you don't feel like you're making any progress. You don't see that you're moving forward; and emotional exhaustion. You're running on fumes. Those 3 things are echoed in these 10 red flags. So keep listening because I have one bonus green flag. But first, let's review those 10 red flags. Number 1, you feel depleted. Number 2, you feel dread. Number 3, you feel guarded. Number 4, you feel fake. Number 5, you feel incomplete. Number 6, you feel distracted. Number 7, you aren't taken seriously. Number 8, you feel bored. Number 9, you feel ignored. Number 10, you feel stagnant. These are signs to check yourself. Maybe it's time for a fresh look, a fresh new community. I'm always open in my calendar to brainstorm with you. And I have a lot of great connections in this community that are other mentorships besides mine. So I'm happy to connect you with a colleague of mine that runs fantastic services that might be a better fit for your needs. So if you use the code podcast to book a brainstorming session, you can waive the fee, and I would love to talk to you and help you sequence your next steps. I also offer one-on-one Catalyst Advantage sessions, which means you don't have to join the mentorship. If you just want to pick my brain for an hour, I am here to serve you, to help you get unstuck and to make more green flags happen in your life. Okay, so let's get to the green flag that you know. Sometimes moving on isn't because of bad things or isn't because of red flags. Here's a green flag. You feel complete. You've grown a lot. You have new goals, new problems that might be outside of the scope of this training. And that's okay. That's a green flag. You're complete. You did it. You checked the box. You can close this chapter with honor and gratitude and move forward with fresh eyes. So here's a takeaway. How many of these landed in your body? How do you express your own healing style in your practice? There are no absolutes in medicine, so it's about time that you can make your own work-life masterpiece, a technicolor dream. And if you'd like to learn more about yourself and how you can avoid burnout, take the Catalyst Archetype quiz to see, are you a reflective river? Are you a fervent flame, a wise wind, a resolute rock? Each of these personality types will tackle conflict a little differently and may slip into burnout in an unusual way. So you'll get your 2-page PDF with prompted journaling questions so you can do that inner excavation and become the catalyst that is inside you. Thanks for listening, and keep coloring outside the lines and practicing that 6th vital sign of creativity. I can't wait to hear from you, and we'll talk again soon.